Hey everybody, it's PJ from Donnie FL and Saber Tactical. I'm here today to talk a little bit about the Pro Bench Monopod and some of the customization options that you yourself can do to set this up to meet your shooting style. This video should be of use to left-handed shooters because what I'm going to talk through will allow you to set this up for a more lefty-friendly approach to shooting. But this is not just a video for left-handed shooters, because the adjustments I'm going to talk about will help you in different use cases. So let me give you just a rundown of the different things I'm going to show you how to do. And I'm going to show it in the, let's just say sort of along the path of setting it up for a left-handed shooter. But you might find, as I have, that there are some adjustments you can make that will actually make your bench shooting as a righty more to your liking. Maybe. And that's why there's options. So to run through sort of what's included in this video, we're going to talk about how to move these uprights. You've got one here and one here, from the far left position to the far right position. Then we're going to talk about how to change this U from, in this case, the left position to the right position. And I think that's essential for a left-handed shooter. The third thing, and this is the most involved part of the process, is moving this wheel, which is used for making lateral adjustments, from the right-hand side of the unit to the left-hand side of the unit. So all of those things are possible and allow you to customize the bench pod to fit your shooting style. We're going to start with the easy bit, and that is moving the U-shaped bracket from this side over to the other side so that it works better for you. For that, you're going to need a 3mm Allen wrench, and you're going to use it on these two screws right here on the side of the unit. So this is held on by two Allen screws. I recommend strongly you put them in a magnetic parts tray. And here is the U-bracket, and you'll notice that it's actually drilled and tapped for threads on both sides. So it is made to be put back and forth to the other side. You'll also see that this is actually kind of like a sandwich that's bolted together, and this rubber piece is squished in the middle there so it stays. But there's no reason why, if you had a unique shooting situation, you couldn't, reach into the 3D print world and put something just ever so slightly different in here to adapt to your shooting needs. And of course, there's the likelihood that you could, if you were so skilled, actually make a whole new whether it's U-shaped or not, but a whole new part for your specific shooting style or situation. We could go ahead and just plop it on the other side, and we've had some people who've said, as a left-handed shooter, could I simply just turn it around and shoot that way? And the answer is, of course, yes. You can use this any way you see fit and any way that works for you and your shooting style. But for somebody who wants this to be used sort of as intended, with the unit biased towards your anchoring shoulder, okay, for me, right-handed shooter, I want it biased to the right. If you look, this upright is on what would be the right edge as I'm looking down range, and it's a little bit offset here, but there are screw holes machined out. So we're actually going to take this off and move it so it's biased fully to the other side. So the next part requires us removing these 4 screws. And to do that, we need a 4mm Allen. These are shorter than the last screws we pulled out, so it shouldn't be a problem keeping track. Now at this point, the end pieces can come free, but you want to watch out because you're still rolling on this track, and what's making this whole thing so smooth is the fact that that track has ball bearings rolling inside it. So you want to make sure you have everything captured, because if you slide this off, it is possible for those ball bearings to go bye-bye on you. And that's not what we want. Not at all. So once you have those uprights off, if you're satisfied with the position of the wheel, you can simply move the uprights over and reattach them to the base and use the wheel for lateral movement in position. That's actually fairly easy, and me personally, I like the orientation of the wheel on the far side. On my right-handed unit, I actually switch this wheel over to the right side. So you might want to stop here, bolt it back together, and see how you like it. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to assume that what you want is to move this wheel fully over, and I'm going to continue moving forward to show you that process. The hardest part of the conversion of this wheel, moving it from the stock right side to the left-hand side, is the removal of the bearings that are housed inside here. They are press fit onto this threaded shaft. I have switched, I think, 5 of these to various configurations. Twice I was able to find that one or the other of those bearings were able to be wiggled off by hand. Twice I think I had to use just a little bit of leverage to get one to release. And then there was one where I actually had to put it in a clamp in a vise and remove it that way. Everything that is manufactured to a tolerance, and sometimes things are on the big end or the small end of the tolerance scale. So your individual results may vary. Worst case, you may have to use a padded or kind of rubberized vise jaw and a punch just to tap that screw out. That's worst case scenario. If you have to do that, my advice would be to take a piece of painter's tape and put it over the area where you have the caged ball bearings that live on this little track and provide the smoothness for that moving back and forth. And if you do that, you won't lose any of those ball bearings. You'll get that bearing off the end, and you'll be able to swap this over to the other side. So this is the part you need to be the most careful about, because we're going to take this off the base, and there is every possibility of losing some really tiny ball bearings that are necessary for the smooth function of the unit. If you have a ball bearing fall out, that is not the end of the world, because you can always put it back. But if you lose the ball bearing, which is very likely, because they're tiny, it is not going to function as well as it should. So I'm taking my magnetic parts tray, and I'm going to be very even about how I slide this back and off. And I am going to basically always have the unit over this parts tray so that if it does drop one, I know where to catch it. What we want to do is remove, and it doesn't matter what side you do this on, but we want to remove one side of the end bearing. So basically what I'm doing is using this wheel as sort of a lever. Careful not to lose any of the bearings in here. It can be on there fairly tight. There we go. Got that bearing off, and I've got the wheel off. So now what I can do is pull this rod all the way through. Remember, you have these 3 screw holes, and if you loosen those, it'll make this movement a lot easier. So I can put the wheel on, and then feed this back through. And then push this back into place. So I had to give that just a little bit of a tap off camera. So that rod is back through, and now we're ready to bring back the base. I'm ready to put it back together. I have the wheel on the side I want it. I have these bearings pressed back into place. I have this upright towards the front, and I have a magnetic parts tray here so that if a ball bearing falls out during this time, it's going to get caught. So it happened. A couple of ball bearings fell out because I didn't have it even. So I'm going to put my hand under here, roll this off, turn it over, but I caught those bearings right here. And I'm going to be able exactly not when you want to sneeze. I have both of those bearings in place. I have the wheel on. I haven't tightened the wheel down yet. I'll tighten that down in a minute. But I'm ready to slide this on. Now I've got a magnetic parts tray over here because if I don't do this just at the right angle, I may lose a ball bearing, and I don't want to lose a ball bearing. If one falls out, it's not a big deal. You can put it back. But if you lose them, now your unit isn't going to be as smooth as it should be. So the trick is to make sure you're lined up straight with the track. And that should just roll on. Now, I can take this short screw so I can put this short screw in. So we're in the home stretch now. We're basically, all the hard part is done and we're just reassembling things. But there are still a few things that can go wrong. So I want to try and give you the benefit of, well, mistakes I've made as I've taken these apart and put them back together. The next step is putting these upright stays back in position. Now these are the parts that kind of hold everything together and make sure this whole unit doesn't fly off the literally fly off the rails. But you need to think, because there are two positions that can bias left or bias right, you really need to just think, okay, which way do I need this to go for my shooting situation? So I'm going to be really careful here because this elevator mechanism could just fly off the track, and I don't want that. But if I look at the Saber Tactical logo, that is the downrange side. Now, as a right-handed shooter, I want these stays oriented as far to the left of the unit as they can go, and I want the U to be on that same side. So this matches the bias of the upright. That's going to bring the gun into my right shoulder. I'm a right-handed shooter. My right hand will be out on the grip, and my left hand is free to operate the controls. If I am a left-handed shooter, Then I want this to be biased towards the right side, and I want the U bracket to be on the right side so that this brings the rifle into my left shoulder so that I can have my hand on the trigger mechanism and then with my right hand operate the controls. So before you put it back together, just think this through and make sure you get it right. So I'm going to start by putting on the right side, and I want that in the farthest right hole because that's going to give me bias all the way to that side to mate with my left shoulder, because in this case I'm pretending to be a left-handed shooter. So if I take this, put it on there, and get it seated over that bearing, I can carefully tip this up and it'll hold in position. And then I can grab one of these short screws, and all I really need to do is with a 4mm Allen just get that started. I'm not going to bottom that out because I really want to make sure these are square. Right now, all I'm trying to do is get them in place so they're bottomed out, and that'll hold that side together. Then I can repeat the procedure on the other side with really, at this point, no risk of anything flying apart. So I'm just going to get these in so that they bottom out, but really beyond that, no tension. And at this point, everything is captive on here, and there's really no risk of anything falling apart. So this is a good place if you need to pause. This is a good place to do that. So the next thing I'm going to do is set the position of the lateral adjusting wheel. And this uses a 3mm Allen key. There's this hole right here and a nylon tipped set screw in there. You don't want to put this all the way over to the edge, because if you do, you'll hear it constantly rubbing on this upright, and there's no need for that. So if you just move it a tiny bit away from the upright, and then you're just tightening down a nylon screw or a screw with a nylon tip, and it's butting up against the threaded rod here. So you don't need a ton of pressure on it. If it ever loosens, you can always tighten that up. But that's what's going to give you your control left to right. Now remember that you have these screws here in front. You have 3 screws here and 3 screws here. And there are basically bushings inside both of these mechanisms. So if you want or need more tension on the unit, let's say it's falling under the weight of your rifle, you can, and it's a very small adjustment, you can tighten these 3 screws ever so slightly. I'm talking like a 1/16 to an 1/8 of a turn at a time. Very small adjustments, try to keep them even. This wheel will then get stiffer and have more resistance to putting it to being pushed down. More control, right? A little finer control because there's some back pressure, but also you have to work a little bit more to get the rifle to move. So you decide how much tension you want by either loosening or tightening these 3 screws. And of course they do work independently, and they adjust with a 2.5mm wrench. So don't forget that you've got those. This feels pretty good for right now. So the next part is to put on this U-bracket. Reminder that if you're a left-handed shooter, meaning the stock's going to go on your left shoulder, you want this on the right side of the unit, right where you have this upright biased. So we're going to put this on, let me do that so you can see it. We're going to put this on this side. If you are a right-handed shooter, this upright would be all the way to the left edge, and we'd put it on the left side. There are some choices. Sort of the stock configuration is that it goes and covers, you see kind of silver and then black, it covers those. So it goes on like that. You could, if you wanted it more forward, you could put it on like that if you wanted to. You'll also see that there are 3 holes here and only 2 holes on the bracket. You can put it at the bottom or you can put it at the top. You have the choice. Let me show you so you can see that. You can put it at the bottom or you can put it at the top. It's your choice. So for our purposes in this demonstration, we're going to put it on the bottom. So you're going to use the bottom 2 holes. I've got them both bottomed out. There's no reason I can't give these guys their final tight right away. You don't need to be, there's nothing on this that needs to be super, super tight. So don't feel like you have to do that. The last bit that we have to put back in is this little cap screw that goes right in there on that side. It's going to be a 2.5. Only tricky bit there is getting it started. And if you can hold onto this wheel and turn it, but that puts some tension on the nylon nub there. If you turn it so it seats all the way, you can give that kind of its final tightness, just like that. So we're almost done. So the last little bit is just to kind of take a walk around, make sure all your screws are tightened. Remember, we just bottomed these bottom ones out. So I'm going to just apply a little final torque there. Just so they're not coming loose. And I would work these adjustments to make sure it's exactly where I want it to be on that balance between resistance to moving and ability to make really precise and stable adjustments. The only thing I don't think we've talked about is the feet. These are threaded, and the intent here is so if you're at a bench that maybe has a little bit of a low spot in it, but that's where you want to shoot, you're able to just back that thread out a little bit. These are pretty coarse threads, so good for some kind of gross adjustments. You may find that you want to put a little ring of Teflon tape in there if you find that threading is too coarse and too loose, and it's moving on you. But that's about it, folks. That should give you all the information you need to make just about any change you want to make on this bench pod. And I just want to throw back out there that there's really no wrong way to use this. It was designed by professional shooters for professional shooters with the intent that you would make changes that fit your shooting style and your needs on the bench. If you do have questions, please put them below. We'll do our best to get you an answer to them. And until the next video, everybody, shoot safe, shoot straight, and we'll see you around.